Welcome to the Power of We Forum Series 2. My name is Jamie Bilsbach, and I'm the Center Director for the Central Mountain Small Business Development Center. Thank you for joining us, and we ask you to mute your button so that we don't get any feedback during the call, but we want to assure you that we're saving 25 to 30 minutes after the session so that you can either share your stories, which we would love to hear, or have question and answers for any of the panelists. So there'll be plenty of time for that. Please put your questions in the Q&A box, or if you would like to speak, say I'd like to share a story, and we'll call on you and unmute you at the end of the session. Next, I got to get the PowerPoint to switch. At the Central Mountain Small Business Development Center, we offer free confidential consulting, and we have 13 consultants here locally that can work with you in a variety of expertise. And we also have access to state consultants so that we really can handle all your small business or nonprofit needs. Then we offer free or low-cost training, and we offer access to capital. So federal programs, state programs, as well as private sectors programs for loans as well as grants. So please reach out to us for any of those needs. The Small Business Development Center, like you, is in this new world environment. And we know that it brings a lot of change, but also wonderful opportunities. And so we have found ourselves, though, needing to pivot just like our small businesses because everything has changed. So we had to cancel all our training programs because they no longer applied and refocus on what in the heck are the needs of our small businesses and nonprofits. So we ask you to take our survey. It's the purple button on this PowerPoint slide, as well as in the handouts that you can download. And we will ask you what kind of different programs you'd like to be taught or have access to, and also the times that you would like to have a session, whether it's 30 minutes, an hour, half day, full day, those types of questions. So financial resilience obviously comes into play, and that's where we have training and free counseling. But the power of we, women entrepreneurs, focuses on the dream focus aspect of our mission statement. And we believe for entrepreneurs and small businesses, for teams to grow, that a new world environment isn't just about survival, but it will take not only a tenacious spirit, but must come from an authentic heart. Okay. Whoops. Next, I wanted to share that we have pivot panels now online on our website, and they're great because it's like you'll hear Robin's story this afternoon, but sharing how small businesses address the COVID pandemic, how they had to pivot, even some of the access to funding they received. So those panels are online on our website and also on our YouTube channel. And we also have storytelling from our small business, their growth before COVID. And then next to the Power We, each, Lori and Heather each wrote a blog before this forum series. And we're actually having a forum series of 7. And so on our website are all of the panelists' blogs that they write prior to the webinar. And we encourage you to go back and read those, have access, because we all have different processes of thinking and mindsets. And so you might connect with one panelist idea over another. And we encourage you not only to go to the website under the blogs, but also share it with your friends and colleagues. Whoops, my button pushing is not working. The Power of We Forum Series 2 is exploring our gifts and sharing them through authentic marketing. And first you'll hear from Lori Benson, and she'll share your true purpose. And then Heather Barron, who will talk about the gift you've been threading all along. And then Robin Vega, who will share authentic storytelling and marketing and her incredible story about doing a startup business during COVID. It's incredible. And I have a bottle to show you later. Anyway, first I'd like to introduce Lori Benson. And Lori works with women and men who are curious about their role here to play in the world. Whether you're sitting in positions of leaders in businesses and industries, or you're just stepping into your leadership, your families and your communities all you might want to explore how it would look. It all begins with inner awareness. She knows that the road to change begins with heightened self-awareness. We must change in ourselves before we can change the world. Boy, do I know that. Lori and her husband, Joel Benson, own BB Roastery, and they are also the founder, Lori's the founder of The Village in BV, and a life coach for inward bound women. Please help me welcome Lori Benson.
Thanks, Jamie. And thanks to all of you for being here this morning. I'm scrolling through names, and it's fun to be sharing this space with you guys. So thanks for making time to join us today for these conversations. I am going to be talking about your true purpose this afternoon. So I thought that I would just jump right in. My question for you to start is, how do you feel when I tell you that you know what you're truly meant to bring to the world? You already know your true purpose. That your work is allowing yourself to feel and listen to what's trying to come to life within you. All of the women I've sat with as a coach have come from different end goals and desires. And they've all gone through the same process with me in varying stages. The process of becoming embodied and reconnecting with their deeper intuitive knowing. They've learned how to access that hidden feminine wisdom within themselves. The wisdom that isn't necessarily valued in our modern day society. The wisdom that we are learning with very strong lessons right now is necessary to bring global change. So, if your true purpose is lying in wait within you, already there, waiting to be accessed, how do you find it? You find it by tuning in and understanding where you're experiencing things within your body. When you're in a conversation, are you listening and engaging from a place of old stories, tension, anxiety, or are you engaging from a place of freedom and joy? Where we feel these interactions creates filters that we're often unaware of. So if you were with us last month, you know, I like to take you guys through little processes. So if you guys will indulge me, I'd love to take you through somatic awareness, kind of meditation or sitting that will shine some light, hopefully, on where you experience different things within your body. So I'm going to start by just asking you to sit comfortably. If you're in a chair, just have both feet connected to the ground, both feet on the ground. Go ahead and close your eyes. Take some good grounding breaths. Jamie, is your phone vibrating or something?
No.
Okay, that's okay.
Lori, maybe we could all, the panelists, could silence ourselves so that you're not getting feedback from someone.
Awesome. All right, sorry. Go back to your deep grounding breaths. So with your eyes closed, just allow the inhale to create that space of expansion. And with the exhale, see if you can just let go and release and relax into your body. Maybe see if you can slow your breath down. And then I'm going to ask you to recall a recent time or a recent memory you have of someone or an experience that stole your power, that made you feel small. Kind of put yourself back in that place. And then bring your attention to your body. Where are you feeling this? Where does this experience live within you? Maybe it's in your throat or your chest or your stomach. There's no right or wrong place to feel it. And when you've located that feeling, go ahead and give it a name. Not like George or Frank, but maybe it's dark or heavy, black, sticky. What does that feel like? And then with your eyes still closed, just see if you can use your breath again to let go. Breathe into wherever that space is that you felt it, and see if with the inhale you can find some expansion, and with the exhale, see if you can release that a little bit. Let go of that feeling. Again, bring your awareness to your breath. Let everything slow down. And then this time, I invite you to remember something recently that made you feel happy, something that brought you joy. Maybe it was a sunset, or a wonderful conversation, or actually speaking to someone you haven't seen in a while face to face. And when you have that memory, really put yourself back into that moment. What could you hear? What could you smell? And when you're back in that space again, bring your awareness and your focus back into your body. So where does that live? Where are you feeling that experience? And then if you can, go ahead and give that, find a word that describes that for you. Maybe it's light, expansion, freedom, whatever word, tingly. And then when you're ready, go ahead and open your eyes. So there's no right or wrong way to experience either of these prompts. And I will say that if you didn't feel anything, that's not wrong either. Most people, I would say 80% of the women that I sit across from when we go through this, everyone can immediately identify where they feel that anxiety and that tension, because I think we're really familiar with, oh no, I'm moving into that space and here we go, right? Everything kind of locks down. But that space of freedom and joy, within that space, we are most vulnerable. And so, especially as women, I think we may be all women on the call today, especially as women, we learn to ignore or tamper or numb that feeling of freedom and joy. So the power of embodied awareness is this: your true purpose exists within that space of freedom and joy. It's from this place of expansion and awareness that you can hear that deeper wisdom that's trying to emerge. This space is vulnerable, and we've learned to move away from it when we feel that spark, because this is who we are at our truest best. So imagine that feeling that made you feel happy. Remember that feeling it created within you. Now, imagine occupying that space and someone cutting you down, discrediting your ideas, saying something hurtful. As we learn to occupy that space of freedom and vulnerability, those cut downs can knock us off our feet and send us right back into that place of not feeling, that safe place of ignoring and pushing through, burying those deep feelings that leave us wide open and exposed. But it's within this vulnerability that our greatest power exists. As we learn to live within this space of freedom and joy, processing, engaging, dreaming, planning, things shift. We find clarity. The gifts we have to offer are seen by others, and our true purpose is allowed to shine. So, how do you know when what you're feeling is coming from that deeper wisdom and not simply your old stories or your cultural and societal conditioning? How do you know when you're feeling that intuitive knowing? When the thoughts coming to you are from your feminine consciousness and wisdom? Your intuition, knowing, true purpose comes from your heart. Moving the energy from our head to our heart is one of the key components to reconnecting with the feminine and changing how you show up in the world. I shared the resource last month of Heart Math, and I know there's a resources slide coming up and there'll be a link on that. But Heart Math is an organization that has beautiful tools and techniques for accessing our heart wisdom. The greater work is accessing that place of openness and freedom within yourself that we just moved through, and then tuning into your heart wisdom. So it's a practice. Creating a new habit and takes time and commitment. It's the greatest gift I've ever given myself and the gift that I cherish giving my clients on a daily basis. When we seek answers, we're either accessing our deeper intuitive knowing or being influenced by our ego, old stories, learned behaviors and responses. Checking in with our bodies is an incredible gauge and accessible tool to discern whether what we are feeling is intuition or ego. So I'm going to run you guys through a quick exercise. You're going to keep your eyes open for this one. So if you have something to write with, that would be great. Otherwise, just run through it in your head as I ask you some questions. So let's go ahead and start by just think of a question you're hoping to answer. Any question, and then write it down. Now sit with this question for just a minute, and then write down the first answer that comes to you. Now, I want you to go ahead and either, if you're writing, look at the question and at the answer. If it's just something you did in your head, hold those things for you. And as you read through it again or walk yourself back through it, turn your attention to your body. So notice as you read your question and your answer, what space are you occupying? So while you look and search and ask these questions, right, on directive and purpose and what's next and how do I ... Where are you within your body? Are you in that space that felt tense, heavy, dark, whatever your word was? Or are you in that space of freedom and expansion and openness? And can you see how that influences your ability to find the right answer for you and all involved? If you're in that place of tension and anxiety and old stories, See if you can breathe into that space and find some release. And then remember that memory that brought you into that space of freedom within yourself. And if you can shift, and it takes time and practice to move from one space to another within your body, but if just through breathing and opening up and relaxing, if you can find a little bit of a shift or a little bit of a release, see if you can ask yourself that question again. And if this time you hear something new. In one of my all-time favorite books called Return of the Feminine and the World Soul by Llewellyn Von Lee, he explains that when we heal ourselves, we free up the energy of the planet to do the healing work she needs to do as well. This also translates to others. When you shine awareness on the parts of yourself that have been holding you back, the ways in which you've been standing in your own way, you create the opportunities for others around you to do the same. From this centered space of deeper knowing, you know the work you're here to do. You find your true purpose. It's just lying in wait, ready to come to the surface and create powerful opportunities for you to shine. So Jamie, would you mind sharing the resources slide that I put together? I have many ways for you guys to take a deeper dive into this work. It's not something that's easy to do on your own in the very beginning. It becomes natural and it becomes habit. With practice and commitment, it becomes the way you move through the world. So on this slide, and Jamie's going to send this to all you guys, there's a link to Heart Math that I mentioned. I have a somatic awareness course that's free online, and somatic awareness is what we just did. It's the awareness of where you experience things within your body. And then every Tuesday morning, so tomorrow morning, I'm just offering free 10 to 15 minute embodiment practices. So tomorrow's 10 or 8 a.m. little 10-minute practice will be a little different than what we moved through today, but they're just opportunities to come together and practice. So that's my gift, and I hope to see you guys again, and I'm really excited to see what Heather has to share.
Well, thank you, Lori, so much. And it is Heather's time. I'd like to introduce Heather Hagen. She's has been an integral life. I did it again.
You did.
Oh boy, never mind. I have an issue. It's Heather Barron.
I love that.
Oh boy, she's an integral life coach specializing in working with women on resilience, mindset, and self-care for the past 12 years. And you can find her on all the socials under Luminous Life Inc. and find her at her website, luminous-life.com. And Heather is also a dear friend, and she married me, so you'd think I would remember her last name. So welcome, Heather.
That's okay. It's a fun little slip both times. I love it. So thank you so much. And Lori, you know, it's so fun to listen to you because just like last time, I feel like we didn't share what we were going to share here, and it just kind of dovetails right into what I have to bring to the table today. And like Lori, I do a lot of embodiment practice in the coaching that I do. I'm an integral life coach, which is all about integrating all the pieces of your life into feeling your sense of wholeness, which I agree with Lori is already there. It's already intact. And that wisdom to know what your true purpose is already exists within. But if you're anything like me, I got that intellectually, and then I set out on a journey about 20 years ago to figure out where my purpose was. I was going to find it somewhere. And even though I knew that it was inside of myself, I felt like I had to look outside of myself to find it. And so after a very upsetting early thing in my 20s that happened that kind of turned my entire life on its head. I set out to figure out who I was supposed to be, what was my calling, my true purpose. And Roger Housden has this definition for purpose: your particular, authentic expression of being. And I love the simplicity in that definition. And if you're like Lori or myself, and I'm sure maybe Robin and Jamie, that sense of inner calling where you have this desire to give what is inside of you in a way that is serving yourself, but also bigger than yourself, that it is the gift that you have to give in the world, then what I'm going to share with you hopefully will resonate. So when I was on that quest looking for who I was supposed to be, I came across this one-day workshop that I did as part of working for a nonprofit out in California. And I was not given the choice. This was part of my job. I needed to go to this workshop. It was just a day long. And I arrived, had no idea what I was showing up for, but personally was in the midst of trying to, seek out my true purpose. And this man named Bruce Anderson showed up. And it was a conference for a lot of people who were in helping professions, mostly social work and therapists and that kind of career path. So we were all in the business of helping others. And the idea of strengths-based assessment for helping clients had become the buzzword, the buzz phrase in the social work sector. So we showed up, and this man presented to us, as all these helpers, this process that helped people identify something he called their core gift. Now, he said this very much is in line with the idea of true purpose, but that the word purpose can get muddled with the idea of skills and talents, and that things that you're just innately born with, people may think, oh, that's my purpose, or skills, things you're just really good at. That you've gotten good at. And so the idea of a gift is that it is a seed that lies in wait inside of you to be used. And most likely you have been giving it without even realizing it. And this intrigued me because it spoke to that idea of it already being present, which I already knew, it was right there, but I could not put my finger on it. I could not identify what my purpose was. And here he was presenting the idea that it was a thread that you have been weaving through your whole life already. And so he shared the beginning of this William Stafford poem. And I'll just read the first couple lines. He started his presentation with these words: "There's a thread you follow. It goes among things that change, but it doesn't change." And that this thread, this true purpose, this higher calling is something you are giving all the time, and a gift needs to be received to actually be a gift. So finding meaningful work where you can do that, starting your own business because you have something to offer, some pain to offer relief to, or a need to fill with the products that you have or the services you have, is a way that your calling can be called forth. So he presented this process, and it was just a one-day thing where we all broke into pairs. With no prior training, we went through an interview process, and it requires 2 people. He says that it requires 2 people because you could be given the list of the questions, but the whole idea is that you have a witness, that when we are asked something, and then we start talking, that we don't need to be thinking about writing it down, that we just get to speak from that heart place that Lori was talking about. So we did start with just a little bit of quiet and centering meditation, and then went into this interview process with total strangers. I was interviewing somebody I'd never met before. And the process is several interview questions, and then you get to the end of it, and then you get to get crafty. So you get to take your answers and you cut them into little slips of paper, and you start to see, as you sort them into categories, that there are these threads. There are these themes that your life seems to follow, and they're different to the threads that other people are mentioning. So we went through that process. It was a really fun process, a lot of really fascinating questions to be asked, and to have that witness where they could ask, did I get this right? Did I write this down right? Or if you hesitated, to notice that you hesitated, and having that witness to the process was really helpful. So Bruce Anderson is introducing this idea of the core gift as your key gift or your signature gift that you give, but you have other gifts that support that core gift. So the different threads that you put together, you narrow them down into about 5 categories, and then you sit with those categories and touch base with your heart, your gut, and just see which one resonates the most deeply. Now, he says that one of the most important things to know about this is that your gift, your core gift, is tied to your deepest wound, which is a really beautiful thing, because it means that the deepest pain you've gone through has a purpose. It is the release for your purpose, which makes sense of tragedy. It makes sense of the things that have happened in the beginning for people. And he's seen this through just tens of thousands of going through this process, tens of thousands of people. So he says that there are 4 primary motivations to why the core gift is so important. And then I'm going to get into why this is so important to me as a coach, but also as an entrepreneur. The 4 primary motivations are hope. Having a core gift says, I am more than my current situation. Whatever is happening right now, I can use it for my gift. The second is identity and power. My gifts keep me grounded in who I am and identify my most powerful interests and abilities. If you're like me, I have a lot of interests, but knowing what my core gift is acts as a filter for how I spend my time and where I spend my energy. The third primary motivation is belonging. Giving my gifts helps me know where I can belong in my community, what I have to give in my community specifically. And the fourth is healing. Giving my core gift helps me heal difficulties I've faced in my life and in my journey. So those are the 4 pieces that just really motivate how we can use our core gift for whatever shows up in our life and what has shown up in the past as well. So my core gift goes like this. My core gift is to be home. I live this through feeling at home in my own skin and modeling this for others. And I serve others by cultivating a safe, inviting, and playful space for them to be at home in themselves and in the world. So everything I do goes through that. I create a sense of home with the kids that I work with at the school that I just left living at. I've worked with a lot of youth and getting to be that sense of home for them when they're away from home. I create a sense of home for my clients so that they feel safe to go to those dark places. They feel safe to drop in the way Lori was showing us and feel embodied, but know that I will hold the space and protect it. So I create this sense of space or home so that people can feel like they can play or be still, just feel safe. And as a coach, this has helped because I use this process for anybody else who is feeling like, I know I have this purpose, and they're like me. Often that is one of the biggest pain points for people, is that they feel like, if I just knew my purpose, I would know what to do. If I just could, figure out what I'm supposed to be doing, then everything would be fine. This is just a simple little process. It takes about an hour and a half, and it is a starting point. It's a statement that you start with, and then you let it speak to you as you move forward. And that embodied practice that Lori was talking about, touching base with your heart and feeling if you are at home in your sense of your core gift and the other gifts that support that. So that is a process that I offer, and it's been so helpful in the coaching that I've done. I'm looking at my little notes. I call it threading your light, that it's your light that the world needs and that you're threading it whether you know it or not. Now, Bruce Anderson pointed out that your gift is actually neutral, and when left unchecked can be used for harm as well as for good. And so when working a lot with adjudicated youth or at-risk youth, identifying the ways that they act out often point to what their gift actually is. And you can use it in a way with your children, or if you volunteer or you work with kids, in a way to redirect that energy so that they can see how that can be used for good and in a way that serves them as well. And this has been a really helpful thing when you feel like something's out of whack with people. So how this helps in entrepreneurship. Knowing your own gift can help you narrow your focus in a way that may be difficult to do otherwise. We spoke in the last webinar about how authenticity can help with this too. Your core gift or thread of light, your conscious true purpose, is a key to being authentic and consistent. Understanding that everyone has a gift is also a way that this helps. That means your clients have gifts. That means your colleagues have gifts. The people you're reaching out to, the people that you just cannot comprehend how they think so differently to you, they have very different gifts. And being aware of that can help remove the personal sense where we take things so personally when it's different to how we are with our own gift. And this can especially help you if you have a team, because if you want to really use their gifts, you can get very clear on what those are and then use them in a way that supports them growing in their gifts, but also in giving their gifts that supports your business. So there is one last thing I'll share. It's a quote by Jacob Nordby, and he says, "Every once in a while, we do something and a little voice inside in our heart says, there, that's it. That's why you're here. And you get a warm glow in your heart because you know it's true. Do more of that." So that is what I have for you about core gift. And Jamie, if you want to show the last quote.
I forgot your quote.
That's okay. And then we'll move to the resource slide.
There you go. Is it there? It should be there.
It's not loaded yet, but that's okay.
It's not? I can see it. Uh-oh.
The quotes that you
can't
have
see?
while I've been speaking are ones that Jamie pulled out of my blog. So you can read a lot more in the blog. It goes more into detail.
I wonder if I have to start the PowerPoint again.
That's okay. I know that we're going to need to get to Robin's slides. So if you need to do that, I can go ahead and just talk about my offering.
You keep talking, okay?
Yeah. So on the resource slide, it just shares a couple of offerings that I have right now. I offer a core gift session. So if you want to witness and you would like to be walked through that process, you can also look up online. There's the core gift. I think it's coregiftinstitute.com. I believe there's a link on there. Was it on our quote? Might be on our
Is
quote.
it there?
But if you just look up core gift, Bruce Anderson is going to take you right to the work that he does. And but I do offer the core gift session. And if you mention that you were familiar with this webinar, either that you watched it live or that you watched the recording, then I'll give you $20 off. Just mention that you were a part of this in some way. And also, so during that process, we need about 2 hours total. It doesn't always take that long. And you do need access to a printer because you'll have to print out your answers and cut them and put them into piles. We can do it in person, socially distanced, but we can also do it by a Zoom session. And I'm also right now, just for until the middle of July, offering a general deal for integral life coaching to have 2 hour-long sessions for $120, which is a $50 savings. You can have any topic, any place that you're feeling like you're getting hung up, and we create some practical ways to move forward, some ways to be embodied, and some tools that you can walk away that will be helpful. And if you're not sure if any of this is for you, I always offer a 30-minute free consultation call. So you can just call and see if I'm a good fit for you or if you have questions. And I also offer several other things. So that's what I have for you today. And Robin, I'm excited to see what you have to share.
That was awesome, Heather. And Lori, those were both so beautiful.
Well, you gotta let me introduce you, Robin.
Okay, that sounds good.
Okay, and hopefully I'll say the right last name. I'd like to introduce Robin Vega, who is a native Texan with a degree in communication studies from Texas Tech University. Robin has over 15 years of experience in entrepreneurship, business, and marketing strategy. She's worked with clients big and small across a variety of industries, cosmetics and technology, food and beverage, agriculture, and cannabis. And speaking about how our panelists have kind of moved into each other, Robin has a gift for helping businesses with authentic brands and telling their stories through thoughtful design and intentional content marketing. In 2013, Robin's marketing software company was purchased, and it allowed her to follow her arrow to Colorado, Buena Vista, Colorado, and pursue her passion with working with entrepreneurs and purpose-driven brands. Currently, Robin is a partner and serves as Director of Brand Development for Plant Aid and Cosmetic. So welcome, Robin.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Yes, and I did not know what Lori and Heather were going to present today, but that was absolutely beautiful. And I've written down lots of nuggets here, and how it does sort of, tie into what I'm going to talk about. Heather, your quote, "The core gift is tied to your deepest wound." So good. I need to unpack that a little more, but that really resonated with me. A little bit about my background and sort of how I got here. Jamie, thank you for that introduction. Before I landed in Buena Vista, I was working for a large creative agency in Denver, and I definitely had some wounds or learning experiences from that job. Worked with businesses big and small, but the corporate clients, the large clients, those were the cash cows, and those were the businesses I was mostly tasked with in helping them with web development and content marketing and storytelling. And it was that gig that where I really learned that I love telling stories, and I really I'm most passionate about telling stories for purpose-driven brands, small businesses. I especially love working with women. That's sort of my jam. But through that experience is kind of what allowed me to figure out sort of what my purpose was, what I was good at, but then where I really wanted to put those gifts and spend my time. So I was able in 2017 to leave that job, and with their blessing left with a large client, and that allowed me to launch Brand and Bash, which is a creative agency that I still own. It's a creative studio where I did web development and branding and design for a variety of industries, and that's where I met Plant Aid, my partner Jake and Hugh, and Cosmetic. They brought me on to help them launch their brands, and I felt so led to just do more with them and wear more hats, and they were more willing to, they were more than willing to let me wear more hats. And so it just morphed into sort of my baby, both of those brands. And I began sort of shedding some of the clients that I did have so that I could put 100% of myself into these purpose-driven brands, helping them, grow and scale. And I'm really thankful that I sort of rolled the dice and did that, and just kind of went where my intuition was telling me to go. Because today I'm a partner in those two brands, and that's where I spend most of my time. And I would say, I'm going to talk to you today about finding your why and authentic storytelling. I will say with full transparency, I have not fully mastered this. It's an ongoing learning process. If I'm telling the story of Plant Aid or Cosmetic, or I have this new store here on Main Street, what I have learned to do and maybe mastered is how to fluff out that story, how to find what your why is in each business. And it really is a matter of diving deep and answering some questions for your business. So if you don't have your business story yet, your why for your business, I'm going to go through it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 questions that you can ask yourself and really kind of dive in to peel this onion to find out what the why of your business is. And so just diving in, the famous quote is, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And the guy who's really coined this phrase is Simon Sinek. He's a best-selling author, he's a leadership guru, he's a professor at Columbia. And he did this really cool TED Talk that has gone viral, and I don't know, maybe many of you have watched it. If not, it's in the blog that I wrote. I put a link in there to Simon Sinek's TED Talk. It's pretty short. It's not a huge commitment, but it's really interesting because he talks about, he uses Apple as his sort of theory for this this idea of people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And I think consumers have really evolved over the years, and I think maybe it used to be a what, maybe more of a what you're offering, but consumers these days, they want more, and they want it to be BS free. That it has to have this authentic vibe, this authentic feel. It's why companies like Pepsi and Coke, they're trying to, Coca-Cola, they try to make themselves sometimes look smaller and local. Stacy's pita chips, that little pita, that's awesome pita company. It looks like Stacy in her kitchen is making these pita chips, and that's owned by Pepsi. And that's very intentional to have these smaller brands within these umbrellas, because consumers, they want to know the person behind the brand. They want to know what your why is. So Simon Sinek has taken Apple as his example, and he draws these three circles, large circle, an inner circle, and then a third one. And in the core is your why, the outer circle is your how, and in the outer largest ring is your what. And so he took Apple because Apple is obviously an incredible company, and everyone knows who Apple is, but he wanted to know why they were more successful than HP and Samsung and some of these other brands. Their technology isn't always the best. They're not always first to market in terms of innovation. But what he realized that they did do the best was they tell their story the best. They have the best way of explaining to consumers what their why is. And they have this really compelling, emotionally driven, emotionally charged marketing and commercials, and everyone's seen them. And so it's starting with your why. And so he sort of peeled this onion, Simon Sinek, on what is the common denominator between all of these businesses that are so successful in what they do, whether they're marketing a service or a product. And he has discovered that it's this why piece. The businesses that are the most successful are the best at telling their consumers why they do what they do. So a little, one little example. So Clean Republic is my company, and one of our brands, and I'll talk to you a little bit about that later today. But our why is we strive to create a healthier, cleaner environment for everyone. So that's our why. We want to create a healthier, cleaner life for everyone. Our how is we develop non-toxic cleaning solutions through a proprietary formula and endless research. Our what is we sell non-toxic cleaners for homes and businesses. But our why is what I always think about before I put any messaging out there, whether I'm marketing to a business, a commercial cleaner, a mom at home. Our why is where I live. And the best part, I think, or the easiest part about and helping you sort of wrap your brain around it, because if you're not, if your business is not personal to you, if you do the work like Lori and Heather, it's impossible to not make it personal. You are your brand, and you practice what you preach, and you eat, sleep, and breathe it. And but if you're marketing something else and it's not necessarily a part of you, the best way to, I've found the best way to come up with this why and market your business is to think about your business as a living, breathing thing. So if you can think about it as a living, breathing thing, it helps. And for me, you know, coming from agency life and having to tell the story of products and services that I really didn't get or I couldn't get behind, or just not sexy products, you know, I would have to literally envision myself in the shoes of the consumer of this app, or, oh my gosh, a dry cleaning chain. At one point, I had to tell the story of content marketing for this huge dry cleaning chain, uniform company, dentists, I mean, so lawyers. So I would put myself in the shoes of their end user. And then I just picture this business as just kind of like a living, breathing thing. And maybe that's crazy, but that's just sort of how I have, how I can wrap my brain around creating content that feels meaningful for these brands. So that's Simon Sinek. And before I move on to these questions, that will help you sort of wrap your brain around it, I just want to kind of reiterate why finding the why is so important. It's kind of like a superpower. It will allow you to work smarter, not harder. And instead of testing these different things, testing different messaging or graphics or however you're communicating with your audience or your target audience, you're not just throwing a bunch of stuff at the wall to see if it'll stick, because you know your why and you're communicating it because you know your end user, and it just helps you to work smarter, not harder, and just communicate authentically with your customers and clients. So discovering your why, this is a series of questions, and again, the best way, maybe before, I'll give you these questions, and then as you take them home, as you have time later today to dive into them, or whenever you have time to do it, before you sit down to answer these, you might kind of try to think about your business as this living, breathing entity. It just is a way of wrapping your brain around it and answering these questions really authentically and not surface. So the first question is, what inspired your business idea? So what inspired it? And I'm going to send these questions to Jamie also, if you don't have a pen and you're listening to this and aren't able to write it down. So what inspired your business idea? What's interesting about your founding story? And there is definitely something interesting about it. I've talked to so many people that are just like, well, it's just not interesting. It's to really peel the onion and go back to, even if you have to talk to other people, if you don't remember exactly like what spawned it, talk to a friend, talk to somebody who knew you when you did start it, because there's always something interesting about it. You might have to dig deep, but so what's interesting about your founding story? What is unique about your business? So those are two different things. They seem similar, but unique about your founding story, and then what is unique about your business? And this next question is really important. It helps me create all sorts of content and really products and services that are going to help people. So what problem is your company trying to solve? I would also add in there, what problem or pain point is your company trying to solve? That really helps you get into the shoes of your end user. How has your business evolved? And sometimes they're ever evolving. If you're listening to your audience and you're listening to your intuition, what's your purpose? Why does your company exist? So what's your purpose, if you do Heather and Lori's exercises first, that might really help you sort of flush that out. And if you don't know the answers to all of these, it's okay. You're still going to be better off having answered some of them than none of them, and truly helping you find this why of your business story. So what's your purpose? Why does your company exist? And then, is there a specific cause your business is supporting? And if it's not a obvious one, you know, my company, our skincare company, is called Cosmetic. We have, you know, 3 different causes, and part of them is giving back, and part of it is responsible pricing, and our company ethos. So if it isn't obvious, and you can still dig deep and think about, like, go back to your purpose and write down if there's a specific cause your business is supporting. And then, what do you believe in personally and professionally? And they will likely tie in together. But it's okay to have a personal, let's see, how do I phrase this? So if they don't have to be one and the same. There's a lot of, you know, there's industries out there. I think of life coaching, for example. The personally and professionally is very interwoven. I mean, I don't see how it couldn't be. But if you're selling a service that is vacuums, for example, maybe that doesn't feel super purpose driven, or it's not something you personally necessarily connect with, but you fell into it and you're good at it, and the world needs vacuums. That's okay if there's not this common denominator between your professional and your personal. But a lot of times we find this that there is a common denominator. So what do you believe in? And then you would just do a personal and list that, and then professional and list that. So if you can take some time to answer these questions, you will find your why. And then once you can define your why statement, anything that you create, whether it's a graphic or a call to action or a post on social, even in your everyday interactions, think about if it supports your why before you do it. Does this support my why? And by asking that question, you're theoretically asking, is this going to get my target audience engaged, excited, actionable? So that should help you there. Okay, so the next, I know there's a slide, so maybe you can go to the next slide, Jamie.
Is that?
Yes. So that's just about my company. So I wanted to get to the stories stick part. We might not have a slide for that, but so stories stick. This is something else that I've learned. This is a common sort of denominator in no matter what business I've worked in, and certainly my current one. So they stick. They resonate with people. It humanizes you, and I think as humans, we're just emotionally charged, and we take stories in, and they help us remember the brand better. So for cosmetic is sort of my example here. This is our CBD skincare company, and part of my role in this company is when we sell to a spa, when a new spa picks our product up, I go to the spa and I train the massage therapists and the spa managers and the retail staff on the science behind CBD and what sets cosmetic apart in this sort of wild, wild west CBD space that we're currently in. So my job is to go in there and do that, whether I'm training or whether I'm pitching a new client, a new spa that we want to bring in. I always start with my story, and it's so great for me because it's part of my story. It's part of the reason I work with this company. But it also it cuts the ice really quickly. It helps. It humanizes me. Someone in the room. Everyone really always knows someone that has experienced pain in their life. So it's just a good way to start. And inevitably, when I go back or I have contact with that person again, they remember my story and they always ask me about it. How's your partner's back? My partner Coleman broke his back several years ago, and we our CBD pain cream sort of changed our life and in terms of sleep and obviously his comfort. So it's what we talk about, and it's what I share before I even start my presentation, because it just, people can relate to it, and I just think it just goes back to sort of like stories stick. And then I want to introduce you, if you don't already know, Wolf and Heron. This is a consulting company. They actually teach on the power of influential storytelling, and they're a consulting firm out of New York. One of the co-founders, though, she happens to live in Buena Vista, and she and I, Stephanie Judd is her name, we have done some workshops together. We do the river gathering together, and I've been to a couple of her workshops, and they're phenomenal. They talk a lot about consumer behavior and sort of the science behind human beings and storytelling. And Stephanie has a quote, and this quote is, "Human beings are literally wired for story. Some biologists even theorize that stories are what sets us apart from all the other creatures on Earth. Our brains process information in the narrative form, and it is through story that we connect with each other and create community. Stories help us remember things because they control the flow of information, and if crafted well, they engage our emotions. So, and then our emotions is what affects our decision making. So it's really interesting, her take on storytelling. And she works with huge companies. Facebook is a client of hers, Indiegogo, Delta Airlines, because these companies know at the core of their culture, at the success of their sales team, all rely on this ability to tell this authentic story. And so, they pay her a lot of money to go to their campus and teach on influential storytelling. But what's really cool is, since she's grounded right now because of COVID, I mean, not cool, but she is not traveling, and so she's doing these free storytelling spotlights where you can practice your storytelling. So maybe what you could do is you could do Lori's practice, and you could do Heather's, and then fill out my questionnaire, and then go practice your story pitch with Stephanie, because she's doing this free, it's called Spotlight Storytelling, and this link will be in this resource page that I send Jamie. But so if you want to practice your storytelling chops and get to know Stephanie, she's the one who hosts it. It's a free storytelling spotlight, and it's just on her website. I think they're doing them maybe once a month, or actually I think they're more frequent than that. So I'll send that information out, but that might be a really good way to get your why defined, and then come up with a story about your business story, and then go on Wolf and Heron story spotlights and pitch it and practice it. That's really that's just the best way to get it down. Jamie, do you want to go to the next slide? Something that might be a great takeaway, all this being said, is knowing, I think it's like knowing when to pivot. So all this said, and what Lori said, and what Heather has said, and what I've spoken about, getting your messaging down and knowing your core audience, in the event of a pandemic or something like this, you have to know when to pivot, because all of that could go out the window. I mean, technically, the core why of your business likely would not, but it might. In our case, Plant Aid, we launched a sister brand within our company called Clean Republic, and we launched this in December of this year through our CBD skincare company. Jamie's got a bottle of it, and I think I've gone over, Jamie, so you can also just email this information out. But I think knowing when to pivot is really important, and a lot of that goes down to what Lori was saying about just intuition, and listening to that, because it's right 85% of the time. But also, if you can emotionally sort of separate yourself from your business. They are our babies, and we do birth them and eat, sleep, and breathe them. So sometimes it's difficult, but if you can separate yourself from it, kind of to see the forest through the trees, and maybe that's polling your audience. If you're doing something and it's not working, you have to poll your audience, and sometimes you have to accept a hard truth. And all that it means is you just have to go back to those questions and redefine your why. And maybe you're speaking to the wrong audience, or you're missing something, or maybe a pandemic hits. And Cleaner Public, for example, we launched in December in the high-end hotel, wellness, and spa space. That is where we saw a need for a non-toxic, effective cleaning solution. And we realized that through our company, Cosmetic, spending a lot of time with spas. So we realized a need, so we launched it in Maui at a high-end hotel in December, and we were just gaining traction in that industry in February when this, I guess early March is when we realized this thing was here. And all of those hotels closed, all the spas closed, and bigger than that, we sort of realized we had this moral obligation to pivot our messaging so that we weren't speaking to just high-end hotels and spas, because everyone deserves to have the right to healthy, non-toxic cleaning products. So we just pivoted, and we changed our messaging. I changed it in all of our marketing and website. My business partners went out and tried to form as many alliances as they possibly could. To this day, there's 7 of us working for this company. We've got to hire more really quick, but you know, we're small, but we had to grow up really fast. And we pivoted sort of without an action plan. We just kind of followed our guts. And sometimes, you know, that's sort of what it takes. The other, really, I've already talked about visualizing yourself in your audience shoes. What's going to solve their pain? What will evoke emotion? You know, what's going to make their life easier? That helps you create messaging that's going to ultimately help your bottom line. And then the most important thing I've learned along the way in my entrepreneurial career is to don't go alone, to form an A team and look for people that are strong where you are weak. And sometimes that's hard because, you know, it's hard to admit you're weak in certain areas, but it's the smartest decision I've ever made in any of my businesses, was to align myself and with good humans, and then to hire an A team around me. Even though we're small, we can all wear a variety of hats and lift each other up and balance each other out. So, I think that's all I have, Jamie, but I'm going to send you all of these just kind of notes and questions in case you want to share them with everyone. Oh, yes, and special offer. So I just opened this storefront in BV. It's on Main Street, right across from the jailhouse. If anyone is in the area, right next to the roastery, actually, Lori, right next to the roastery. That's where I go a couple times a day. So we opened this storefront where we sell our CBD skincare company, and also Cleaner Public, our cleaning solution. And then I have some other things we're bringing in. We're opening a spa, but I wanted to offer a 10% discount to anyone that wants to come check it out. And if I'm not here, whoever's here, just present this promo code, and I have it plugged into the Square system here. So
thank you, Robin. I just find your story fascinating. I know personally, I had terrible panic with COVID because from SBDC Center, we were focused on the entrepreneurial small business development and all of that. And then it switched overnight to being so government focused, trying to help with these idle plans and PPPs and all this government lingo. And I was in a total panic meltdown. And in fact, I reached out to Lori and Heather for help. To think that you started a business during that time just blows my mind, that can you maybe just quick share how your partners do, how you created the synergistic collaboration that spawned this concept?
Yeah, we were deer in headlights too, for sure when this thing hit, and a cleaning company in a pandemic. I mean, it is like a marathon every day without a finish line, truly. And some of it is faking it till we make it. This storefront, this spa idea, we decided in December, January that we were going to do it. So it was pre-COVID. My business partners in cosmetic loved the storefront where I was officing. It was just where my office was. And our landlord presented us with an opportunity to expand the office space. And so that's kind of what the trajectory of, do we want to have this storefront / spa? We'll use it as training facility for other massage therapists, and then we'll have CBD services, CBD spa services as well. Well, we decided to do this before all of our spas closed, and before we lost our investor, and so we just decided though that we think it's we just really believed in it, and so we wanted to move forward. We already had the space. Instead of, this is again going back to pivoting and just digging deep, instead of having someone build out the space as we had planned with our investor, Coleman and I were here doing it. So just had to roll up our sleeves, and we just decided to forge forward with the storefront and spa. But again, pivoting, instead of launching a CBD skincare company and storefront, we decided to bring in Clean Republic, which is our sister company, and also open the store, launch it with an essential cleaning product, because who's really going to buy, who's really thinking about CBD skincare right now? No one. Plus, it felt really good to be able to provide, this community in which I live with healthy, non-toxic cleaning products. So we quietly opened early. Again, had to change some of our messaging, but yeah, I mean, it was a little scary. It still is. Our cosmetic spas are starting to open now, which is going to help. But yeah, it was not planned. We did not plan to open a store and spa in the middle of a pandemic. We just thought we'd already started it, and we believed in it, and we just thought, let's let it ride and see what happens. Yeah.
Well, it's impressive. I'd like to open it up.
It kept me busy. I would say it kept me busy during the quarantine. There was, we were forced to be here, so we were spent every day here at the spa painting and, building it out. So.
Well, good job. But I wanted to open it up to Q&A for all the panelists, and also an opportunity as other women leaders and entrepreneurs to share a story or a comment or a reflection. And so please put in those questions, or you can raise your hand, and we'll try to have maybe Lori help me if people raise hands. But I do have one question already from Karen that asked Robin, what is the name of your storefront?
The storefront is Cosmetic, which is the name of the skincare company. So it's CAUSE, Medic. And so just we have skincare products, and then we'll develop the spa early July.
Okay. And please send those questions, but I have a question for Lori, because you did an unusual pivot, I think, and you might want to share a little story about that in regards to, you had your leadership training and health assistance. What else did you choose to do during COVID?
Well, we bought the roastery back. So I love your story, Robin, because it's so, it's just, I love that none of us ever share this ahead of time and how everything aligns, right? But when I hear you share your story, I resonate so deeply with it, because it's really, you had to tap, it was that deeper knowing that, like, yeah, this is my purpose, right? I'm on track with the gifts I'm supposed to be bringing, your core gifts, like Heather talked about. So you stepped into it, and that happened to us as well. We had had the roastery, and I'll stop if anybody raises their hand and has a question, but we had the roastery for 12 years and broke them off, sold the cafe, and then we sold the wholesale side of the business a year ago. And when all this kind of went sideways, the beginning of April, the person that we had sold the roastery to said, this is way too much as a first-time business owner, and I'm out. So we, in about 10 days, figured out how to step back in. And so it looks different. And we had to do exactly what I shared with all of you. You know, we had to sit with it for a minute and say, is this still part of our purpose? Does this align with what we want to be doing? Does this align with where we want to go? Joel and I had both, my husband and I had both stepped into other lines of work, and we're doing other things, and both had full plates. And the beautiful thing about being able to sit and feel and understand what we were feeling as this opportunity came to us again, we both could say independently, like, yeah, this feels right. And now because of that, everything's aligned, right? I have this story sharing project that the coffee supports beautifully, and the story sharing project supports the coffee, and the coaching, everything just came together and aligned. So I think that's a big part of the opportunity in front of all of us right now. And the clarity that comes from knowing your core gifts, knowing where you're holding these different things in your body, it's a clarity more of like how you want to move through the world. And as soon as you get that clarity and you're able to communicate that and hold that and internalize that, you're almost telling the universe, like, hey, this is who I am, and this is how I move through the world, and this is what I'm ready for. And from that clarity, doors really do open.
And Heather, I even thought of you in a pivot, because Heather has, working with the school here in town, Link School, my grandson and granddaughter went there. And so I know her of nurturing and developing these beautiful children. I spoiled them, but she actually gave them or shared their gifts, got them to realize their gifts. But now you're pivoting to a new journey too. So do you want to share a little of that?
Yeah, so I'm a life coach, an integral life coach, but I also have a wedding business. So I officiate weddings, and I write people's story. Talking about storytelling, I capture their love story and create ceremonies from scratch. And I did marry Jamie to her wonderful husband, and of course was getting ready to leave the school after 4 years of being there, which was such a blessing. But I actually lived with the teenagers. And, it's just time after 10 years of living with college students and teenagers as a living counselor to move into a new chapter. And so I had planned to do that. And then this hit, and suddenly I had no weddings to move into. Either they were canceling or postponing to 2021, which is wonderful to not lose the business, but then that makes double the amount for 2021. And trying to figure out where to put those with still just the same amount of income. And so pivoting has been a big part of what's going on. And what has happened is I've pivoted a lot more into the coaching as a primary focus rather than sharing those between the two. So it's been an exciting time. In the school, of course, we sent them home for spring break, sent the students home for spring break. It's a residential high school. And then they didn't come back. So my job is to live with them, and with them gone, I thought I might not have a job, but the school really worked to keep me on, and I became really good at indoor painting. So talk about putting, I had no experience painting whatsoever, and now I make a mean line at the ceiling edge. So
don't admit that. You'll be really busy.
Yeah,
I wish I would have known that when we were painting this place.
Don't advertise that.
Yeah, maybe I shouldn't. I'm the business anymore, just so you know, I've loved it. Yes, but it's been a very exciting time for all of us, hasn't it, with all this pivoting. And it's amazing to hear, speaking of stories, to hear everybody's stories of how when you drop in and when you touch that place inside of yourself of true knowing, and you are aligned with purpose, you have a sense of purpose at the root, you know your why, then whatever shows up, we can keep pivoting as we need to.
Yeah, and I too have a pivot story because I, with SBDC and this new center, we had this Power of We Women's Entrepreneur, what do you call them now? I forgot that, conference. That's it. Because I'm only used to webinars now. Scheduled for May 18th, and a lot of other training things. And that was my background. My comfort zone is training and development and working with entrepreneurs. So it was so shocking when they were all closed, and all of a sudden all these government programs and questions and the real challenges for small business and not always getting the answers. It was very disturbing. And it was interesting, at some point I had that aha moment about, wait, we can still do the power of we, it's still needed. And it can be done in webinar. And how cool is it that we break it up instead of an 8-hour session, that it's 7 different sessions and even more different panelists and stuff. So I guess we all have had our pivots, and I hope that even if you didn't share your story today, you might give us a call and share your story or ask your questions, because the power of we is really a collective women getting together and finding our way, our strengths, our gifts, being authentic, accepting each other's authenticity, those types of things. So I would like to say thank you for joining us. And I didn't know if Lori, each of you might have a closing remark.
So there is something that I would love to share just after listening to everybody. I love what Heather said about our core gifts coming from our kind of our deepest wound. And I think the opportunity is in front of us right now in so many ways, right, to have those wounds reopened. And my invitation, I guess, to everybody is to feel what's moving through you and let it come up and out, but don't lead from that pain point. And that was part of the process, one of the gifts, I think, of the process that I shared, which was very quick, and it's it takes practice and time. But it's to understand when your leadership or your choices or your decisions, where they're coming from. And I know on my social media feed right now, there are a lot of beautiful voices, and I can see what they're sharing is coming from that deep, deep pain. And that's okay. That's okay, because they're finally accessing that point of pain. But my invitation and my request, I think, is that collectively we find our voice coming from that place of freedom. Mm-hmm. So Heather does a beautiful job of opening this door, and so I appreciate you bringing that to the conversation today.
Yeah, that's a really beautiful point, Lori, and I'm so glad that you bring that up, because there is so much suffering that we're seeing everywhere, and in such a concentrated way, since many of us are still relatively stuck at home and have infinite access through social media. And so I think there's a lot of group processing, and not necessarily going through the process, but just sharing of stuff as it's happening, instead of that deeper place of touching base with your heart, which Lori so lovingly has shown us the last 2 times how to do, of is it coming from that place? And although your gift comes, from your wound, it is not your wound. There's a very big difference. And what has helped me, so coming home, I've never lived anywhere longer than 4 years in my whole life, and that has always been the long end of things. And so being at home in myself came from my greatest wound of never feeling like I had a home. And so you can see that even in the languaging. And so I offer this, to take a breath, to close our eyes, and to remember that I belong here, I am ready, I am not alone. And that's what I offer.
Thank you.
Wonderful. The only thing I would close with is just that everyone has a story to tell, and they're all meaningful, and they're all important, and they're all interesting. So that's what I would close with.
Yes. And for us to have the courage to share our stories and realize that not everybody will like them. That was a hard lesson I had to learn not too long ago. Heather's like, well, not everybody's going to like your story, and you have to be okay with that. So I'd like to thank Robin and Heather and Lori for your participation. It's just been a wonderful gathering, and I very much thank you. And I'd like to invite all of, thank you. I'd like to invite all of you. Oh, you're welcome, Robin. Thank you. I'd like to share that July 20th, we have our forum series 3. It's on women's leadership. And we're switching it up some. Jenna Finkston will talk about a fully actualized and embodied leadership and how that's essential. And then Sydney Schnur will talk about we lead lessons and practices. Objects in the rearview mirror may appear closer than they are. And she's just full of wisdom. I already got to read her blog, and I just want to take a vacation and actually visit all the sites each of you recommend and really focus on myself at some point. And then Delaney Keating is going to be talking about igniting a culture of potential, yours, mine, and ours. So please register. You can do that via the handouts. There's a link directly on that, as well as Heather and Robin and Lori's links. And if you have any questions, need help, or even want to think about creating some kind of focus group that isn't led by SBDC, but maybe locally in our community, please reach out to me at info@centralsbdc.com. So thank you so much, all of you, for attending. And please share your thoughts on who you would like to come speak or what topics you might in the future forum series. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Thanks,
Thanks, guys. Have a good day. See y'all.
Bye-bye.
Bye.